When digital and social media first hit the marketplace, I was working for a small business, and the reaction that came down from the leadership in that small business was very much either completely indifferent from one, and like the world is ending, how are we ever going to maintain a business when people no longer want to have relationships? Did anyone experience similar emotions, or have someone in their organization experience similar emotions? A little bit, yes. The sole insurance agent raised his hand. So just so you know, we have another one right here. So there's two. I was an independent insurance agent. 15-person, standard, cliche independent insurance agency in every way, shape, and form. We were family run and owned. My father-in-law owned the business. My brother-in-law worked there, my wife worked there, and my wife's twin sister worked there. So now you know why I don't work there, right? It's very obvious why I don't work there anymore. So I do think, to a certain extent, though, that much of what small business did at the time was ending. But I don't actually think that it was their fault. It very much had to do with how social media was sold. Social media and digital marketing were sold. All you needed to do was shout as loud as you could, and there was this captive audience just waiting to hear what you had to say, right? And then you kick back, and money just rains down from the sky. Here is the ultimate social media ninja, rockstar, guru bullshit meter. If anyone sells you that you should be doing Facebook marketing because there are 1.1 billion people there, run as fast as you possibly can. Because that's not what happens, is it? Right? The 1.1 billion has no impact in your ability to be successful. So you shout as loud as you can. There's supposed to be these people waiting to hear you. And when you sit back and wait, nothing happens. It's crickets. And this is frustrating. And I can understand why many businesses, small, medium, and large, have felt like it's never been the thing for them. And there's been these movements where we're going to go back to business face-to-face, eyeball to eyeball, right? We're going to descale our business. And something I say in the independent insurance industry all the time is providing less accessibility is in no way the proper solution, right? We have to embrace these tools. So it comes down to trust. And Marcus talked about trust. And the hard part about speaking for me behind Marcus, which this is actually the third time that it's happened, is he stole all my stuff, right? Like he heard me speaking one time and then just ripped the whole thing off and got super popular. And now I don't really know what to say. So the key is attention with trust. You can create attention very, very easily. You can pay for it. There's a lot of different ways to get attention, but if you don't have that trust factor, it doesn't matter. So Marcus talked about the 0 moment of truth. You all know about it now, so I can actually skip this slide, which is amazing. That's amazing for me, because this concept is something that I think we struggle to understand. It's the people we're not talking to that are the most important when we're creating content online. And here is how you know if your content is working. Is your phone ringing? If it's not ringing, your content stinks. That's the solution. So there's a company called Google. They have a small subsector of their business called Google Compare. Inside of that business, there is a subsector called Google Compare Auto Insurance. So in the insurance industry, the world that I live every single day, they have been a bit of a disruptor. What Google Compare found is that the close ratio on business that starts online and finishes online is somewhere in the 15 to 20% range. All right, that's anecdotal from their CEO. I didn't see the study. It's all internal. They haven't published it yet. When someone shopping for auto insurance online starts online but ends up calling, picking up the phone number, and talking to a human being, the close ratio is somewhere around 45%. People still want to talk to the human, but what we're doing with our content marketing is initiating the relationship. It's the handshake. It's the initiation of the process. We're letting people know who we are, what we believe in, why we're in business. This is what's important about your content. There are sales funnels and email opt-in lists and all these different things you can do, and that stuff's amazing. But if you haven't established that initial trust and that initial relationship, it doesn't matter how tuned in or dialed in your tactics or your strategy are, they're not going to work, or at least not as effectively as they can. So what we're going to talk about today is how you establish that. What are the types of content that you need to create for your business that actually build that initial handshake? So when the phone rings, they're already sold. Because in their zero moment of truth, they've decided that you're the provider. The only thing you can do is screw that phone call up. That's what we want. We want that person already sold when they pick up that phone and call you. So like I said, I was an independent insurance agent. I was a terrible independent insurance agent. I was horrible. I hated everything about selling insurance. Because when I first got into the business, what my father-in-law said was, here's $100, go buy a pair of rubber sole shoes. Legitimately. I would get in my car, I put 40,000 miles on my car, and what I did every single day was drive to the office, check in, and then I would drive from small town to small town in upstate New York where I live, not literally knocking on doors of businesses and saying, here's my business card, if you'd like to buy insurance, I'm your man. And it's like, here's this 25-year-old dweeb, you know what I mean? Like, why would I, if there are men and women who've been in the business for 30, 40 years, why would you ever choose this guy who's been in the business for 3 months? It was horrible. When it was raining, we would cold call. I'm going to interrupt your life again.
You're just sitting there waiting for someone like you to call.
Exactly, right? It goes all the way back to our first slide. Cold calling, the whole premise behind cold calling is that there are these people who are like, we just can't wait for you to interrupt our lives. Can't wait for it to happen. Please, my life is not busy enough. I need you to call me and tell me why your insurance is better than the guy down the street, right? So I was terrible. And what I used to do, you know how at business functions, the same circles that form at 8th grade dances form, right? It's like the same exact thing, like nothing changes. You're just wearing a little cheaper suit, I guess. So I used to go to these networking functions during the middle of the day, just literally to waste time. Because if I wasn't in the office, my father-in-law wouldn't be giving me a hard time about working, so I could just go and stand around for an hour and a half for $5 and drink a couple cups of coffee and talk about sports or something. And but I was trying to make a living, I promise. So there were two people there, two centers of influence that I didn't want to talk to. There was a real estate agent and a mortgage broker. I had known them from the area, and I'd want to talk to them. They're standing side by side in one of these circles. So I elbow my way in, and I'm a couple people away, and I hear the real estate, it's about 2008, I hear the real estate agent say to the mortgage broker, oh, well, we'll just connect on LinkedIn. And then they separated and went opposite directions. I had no idea I knew what LinkedIn was, but I had no idea what it was, right? This is before you had to have a LinkedIn or you couldn't be considered a business professional. So I didn't know what it was. I don't have a predisposition to social media in any way, shape, or form. I didn't even have Facebook at the time. But that was the light bulb moment for me. I said, there are conversations happening in the digital world that I am not a part of. People are communicating. They're building relationships and making buying decisions in a place that because I'm not there, I have no ability to interact. And that scared me for whatever reason. So I called my wife on the phone and I said, I'm not going to be home for a while. I spent the next 8 hours in the office. I was there till like 10 at night, 10:30, just on LinkedIn, trying to figure out the platform. And I learned one lesson that day. It's the most valuable lesson I've ever learned as a professional, especially as a marketer. And it's the core piece of everything that I do to this day. It's that the creators win. The people who are creating the content win the attention. If you're not out doing the work, I'm not saying that that there's any schedule to this. I'm not saying you have to do it every day. I'm not saying you have to create one great piece once a month. None of that. But you have to create something. If you're not putting it out there, and we're going to talk a little bit about what I mean by putting it out there, the type of content, but if you're not putting this content out into the world, how can anyone in the zero moment of truth decide that you are the best solution for them? They can't. That's why the phone's not ringing. They can't choose you if you're not creating the content. So, bang. Went to my father-in-law and I said, I would like to start blogging on the Mer Group's website. And he said, you're not good enough at insurance. You are not blogging. That's crazy. But my father-in-law is a very good guy. And I said, is it okay if I did it on my own website? And he said, that's fine. So RyanHanley.com, which is now my personal marketing site or whatever. Not or whatever. That is my personal marketing site. I don't know why I dropped that whatever in there. That is officially my site if you want to learn more about me. So, too much of those cookies or whatever we had it for lunch. That started as the Albany Insurance Professional. I branded myself the Albany Insurance Professional, and I said, if I've been in this business for more than 2 years now and I still don't know everything about insurance, there's absolutely no way that the people I'm selling insurance know anything about it. And every day I said, I'm going to teach myself something new about the business, and then I'm going to write about it. And it didn't end up being every day because I was busy, but it ended up being about 3 times a week. And every Monday morning we had a sales meeting. And consistently, took me 9 months. So I'm a realist. It took me 9 months to get one inbound lead. But after that, they started to come in more consistently. And every week I started to say to the other producers in the office at our sales meeting, they'd ask, where did your business come from? And I said, it came from my website. And finally, they decided that it was time to bring it over. So we're going to get to that piece of the story in a second. But I want to talk about what I learned during my time writing for my own site. The 9-month mark wasn't really, the 9-month mark is not set in stone by any way, shape, or form. It's when I started to get incredibly bored. That's really what it was. At about 9 months, I was just bored of writing about insurance. Insurance is boring, right? Where's our insurance agent? It's boring. It's an incredibly boring topic. So what I started to do was interject pieces of my personality around 7, 8, 9 months in. And I'm a Buffalo Bills fan. I don't have my cell phone on, otherwise I'd hold it up to you and prove to you that I am. We do exist.
By admitting it, you don't have to prove it down.
There's my man.
By admitting it in New England, you also confirm your breed.
I'm leaving immediately after this session. So I started talking, I was just bored, so I started interjecting little pieces of my personality, where for the first 6 to 7 months, it was just, I'm going to be this very professional, talk about the coverages guy. I started just getting bored and putting things in like about the Bills game or that I was a fan or little things about my life. And I started to realize that what people referenced when they called me was not my ability to write about the topic of insurance. Consistently, they would reference the little ditties that I put in about my personality. Okay? What is the thing that separates your business? If I had to say one thing, you could tell me one thing. What separates your business? Someone shout it out. Anything.
I'm the only one that I'm there at.
You're the only one. What else?
The people.
The people. What else? Results. Good, I like that. The story. Very nice. What else?
The why about what you're doing.
The why. So
Why you do what you do.
people buy from you because of the why. Do you believe that, or are you saying that because you think it's what I want to hear?
It's what I want to hear, and I believe it.
Okay, good. So I call this, so all those things are right and wrong. Maybe the why one. I call this the customer expectation triangle of death. I promise it's the only slide that's handwritten. This is actually, I wrote this down on a napkin, and I'm pretty sure I stole it from someone, and I can't even remember who it is now. But here's the simple philosophy. Before the advent of the internet and advanced logistics, that's the stuff that UPS talks about in their commercials all the time, customers only expected us to be able to provide 2 sides of this triangle. You could have an incredibly competitive price, think competitive, not cheap, competitive. Again, this was a napkin about 4 years ago. So you could have a competitive price, and you could have a good product or service, but they knew it was going to take a long time to get or be hard to get. You could be have good fast delivery, have the thing very easy to get, have it be competitively priced, but they knew it was going to be crap, right? Because anything that's cheap to create and cheap price-wise is not going to be a very good product. Then companies like Zappos came out, and Apple, where you literally have to walk the first floorboard and you can have a MacBook Pro in less than 5 minutes, right? These type of customer experiences transcend every business, not just those unique brands. Our expectations as customers carry throughout every purchase that we make, throughout every interaction we have with the business. So, because of advanced logistics and the internet, people started to say, geez, unless you have a really competitive rate, you have a great product, and you're easy to do business with, no. Because I can just go to Amazon. Or I can just buy my shoes at Zappos, or any of the other classic examples we have. Those are classic examples because they figured this out first, that you had to be all three. Too many, especially in the independent insurance industry, but too many of my small business brethren forget that just having good service and competitive rates, but being really hard to do business with, doesn't get the job done anymore. I had an insurance agent say to me 3 months ago, I was giving this slide. I was giving this slide right here. And I was doing my thing, and he raised his hand, he said, I only build relationships eyeball to eyeball. And I said, do you think, so what's more important? The way you do business or the way your customers want to do business? And he said, my customers want that. And I said, that's perfectly fine. That is a perfectly fine way to do business. Understand that this is not a necessity for your business to survive. It is a necessity for your business to thrive. You can do two sides of this triangle and survive. Absolutely, 100%. But if you want to thrive, you have to embrace this concept. And the only thing that truly separates your business from every other business just like yours is the experience that you provide. That experience transcends just digital, but the overall thing, the why to a certain extent, the belief that you have, why do you allow dogs to be in your, is it you're a dog lover, are you an animal? That says something about your business. And is that overall experience, every little piece of it, both positive and negative, that ultimately separates you. Because if you don't have a great product, you don't have competitive rates, and it's not easy to do business with you, you're not thriving. You're just surviving, okay? So this is only for people who truly want to grow, which I'll tell you from the people who have actually implemented most of the knowledge that's going to happen today is probably about 10% of you. All right, I do surveys about 3 months after a lot of my speaking events inside the insurance industry. Only less than, on average, about 10% of them actually implement any of this stuff. So what that tells me is that a lot of people tell themselves they want to thrive, but they don't actually want to. So believe me, you don't have to do any of this. You only have to do it if you want to grow significantly. Okay, let's move on. I'm going to show you my favorite commercial ever, and then I'm going to ask you a question, and the winner gets nothing. Is anyone like completely jacked up to like go video some sumos or something? Every time, I watch that probably 1,000 times. Every time, it excites me. What do they do? Now, obviously, Apple is a played out example. I don't care because this is really well done and it suits my argument. But what do they do in this video that really makes this thing connect? Because I firmly believe that everyone just connected with that video. It's impossible. You wouldn't have a soul if you didn't. What is the thing that they do? Right? Do they ever talk about the iPad? No. They put the user, the consumer, their core audience, they put them into the experience of using the thing. It's not benefits driven. It's not 7 bullet points. Right? When that commercial came out, that was cutting edge technology. Right? That was the second generation. It had 4G Wi-Fi. They could have talked about all that. Instead, what they did was they showed a guy videotaping a waterfall. It's incredibly beautiful, and you say to yourself, I can be creative. And then the assumption is that to be creative, you need the thing, but the thing doesn't matter because the consumer assumes that the iPad is easy to get, cost effective, and an incredibly good product. The reason they buy it is because of what the experience that Apple just provided to them. And this is just one touch point in a larger experience that they create for them, but I think it's a microcosm. Yes, did you have a question?
Well, actually, the other thing I think that they did is they didn't talk down to their customer. They used intellect to bring them further in.
I love that. So the comment is they didn't talk down to the customer, they used intellect to bring them in. I 100% agree with that. In whatever way, shape, or form, whatever thing you are interested in, if you have a creative bone in your body, they tried to fit their product into a potential experience that you could have. And in that way, you just assume that in order to do the work that you want to do, you need that thing and not the 4 other brands which have equally equivalent technology for all intents and purposes, right? There were other players in the market at that time. You could have taken the iPad out and placed a Samsung or any of the others in there, and it would have worked probably pretty close to the same functionality. But in this case, it was Apple that created the experience. So you place yourself in there. I think that's incredibly powerful. All right. So we talk a lot about business storytelling, creating the experience. So what does that actually mean? You've probably heard story a lot. I just use the word experience. Our content, it all adds up. I'm not talking about George R.R. Martin or J.R. Tolkien. Those are the authors of Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings. Sci-fi nerd. It's actually every piece of content that you create that fits into one of these 3 buckets. Company, client, community. Company. Why has your receptionist shown up every day for 30 years? Why do you have your entire family working for your business? Why did you decide to start your business? Why do you come back every day? Why haven't you checked out over time? Why do you continue to reinvest? Why did you buy the building next door and add that in? These are all pieces of your company that talk to a certain segment of the population. They tell people a little bit of your story. What is it about your company that makes it special? Little things. This can be a Facebook post, a blog post, a YouTube video, an Instagram selfie shot, like Sue taught you how to do. Every little piece about your company goes into that bucket. Client. Who are the people that choose to do business with you? What do they look like? Where do they hang out? Why did they choose you? Keeping up with the Joneses. We've heard of that terminology. We have a general sense of what that means, right? You see someone that you respect doing something or buying something, you say to yourself, I need that thing, right? Because we want to do business with the people and companies that people we respect or admire do business with. If you do business with Sally, and Sally is respected in the community, then other businesses who see Sally with you in your content, maybe it's at a networking event or in your office or you're in her office, they say to themselves, she's a smart businesswoman. If she's chosen to work with this company, maybe I should consider them. Who are your clients? And the last one is fairly obvious, community. But community is how do you interject your business into the place that you operate. That can be a virtual community. It can be a physical community. That can be a national community, regional, state, town, neighborhood, doesn't matter. But how do you put your business into that community? And where all those pieces of content come together builds your story, it builds the experience. No one single piece of content that you ever create can tell your story. Your about page is not the story of your business. It is many pieces of content over time across multiple platforms. This is your story. This is the human side of your business, and it is exponentially more important than anything that you create about the technical side of your business. The fact that you are good at what you do is assumed until you prove otherwise. What people care about is why you do the thing. I can tell you from, I do a lot of research and take a lot of time inside the insurance industry. There is very little that delineates one provider from the next, and even less that delineates agency from agency in terms of their technical abilities to provide you with insurance. The only thing that delineates them is the experience that you get. Some independent insurance agents, and I kid you not, will not pick up the phone after 1 o'clock on a Friday. They did not work 30 years to have to pick the phone up at 1 o'clock on a Friday. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. That is a different experience than you get from someone who's scratching and scraping to start a business and is open 24/7. But with one you may get experience and one you don't. And what I'm telling you is that by providing people in the digital world with this story, in the zero moment of truth, they get to choose if you're the provider. And if you've given them this much of who you are, by the time they pick up the phone, they don't need to be sold. They're already sold. They've already decided. In many cases, they already feel like they know who you are. Okay? So now I'm going to tell you a little story. Anyone ever heard of InsureMyFoodTruck.com? All right. So, all my examples are insurance. I love the industry, so you just have to bear with that. But I promise you they're pliable. So, InsureMyFoodTruck.com is in every way a standard small business, right? A standard independent insurance industry that you'd go by every single day. There's probably, on any road that's out here, there's probably 5 of them if you drive for more than 10 minutes. 3 principals, 3 owners. 37-year-old Denny Christner is a foodie. And on the West Coast, food trucks are gourmet. In Albany, food trucks give you the runs. So I did not necessarily understand why, when I first heard this story, that he was going to food trucks, but I guess it's a thing now. So Denny is going to these food trucks, and he's just into it. He just loves it. He likes the food, fish tacos, blah, 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 and he loves it. So as insurance agents do, if you bump into someone enough, and probably everyone who owns a business is aware of this, eventually they have to ask you for their business. It's like part of getting the card to be in the club is like, if you rub shoulders with someone more than twice, you have to ask for their insurance business. So he asks the food truck. The guy says, okay, I'll let you take a look. He goes out to the insurance companies to find out how he can get the insurance, and he finds out that there are only 2 providers in the entire state of California that will write a food truck insurance policy. And he says, okay, who are the major players here? Who are my competitors in the market that are writing a lot of this? And both companies say you have nobody. Basically what we get is random submissions like what you're doing right now. And he sees opportunity, right? He sees opportunity. And he says, okay, I want to be that guy. So he goes out and he pounds the pavement, and he realizes something very quickly. It is incredibly difficult to communicate with food trucks, right? There's not a hard line. But most importantly, when they're not prepping food, they're serving food. When they're not serving food, they're cleaning up. When they're not cleaning up, they're prepping for the next meal over and over and over again. They do that all day long and they go home. What they don't want is a phone call. They're not going to be able to respond to email, and they certainly do not want you banging on the side of their truck door trying to solicit them. So he was frustrated and it was going nowhere, and he saw this opportunity in front of him, but he could not figure out for the life of him how to get in front of these people. And then he looked at his own consumer use. How did he find where the food trucks actually were? Twitter. Fish tacos, salmon tacos, 8th and Broadway. I'll be there at 11:30. And people come down from the offices surrounding. So what people do in San Francisco is they follow their favorite food trucks on Twitter, and that's how they find out who's going to be in their area that day or where their favorite food truck is, and they'll go to that spot. So he created the Twitter handle, Insure My Food Truck, and he started tweeting at them. Not, hey, let me get your insurance. He started basically retweeting their tweets and saying, hey, I loved what you had today, and when's the next time? Basically just he was just a consumer. And for the first month, he didn't solicit one person on Twitter. And it just, all of a sudden, because of his Twitter handle and the fact that he was being so helpful and became such a part of the community and seen his face around the different, they do like little meetups and stuff where a bunch of food trucks will get in a parking lot. And they just started asking him like, hey, can you help me? And he said the oddest thing about the whole experience was he became so ingrained in just 1 month, because there was nobody else in the insurance space doing this. He became so ingrained in their community that most of them thought that they already had their insurance with him. Right? They were like, oh, I thought I had my insurance with you, because he was providing them with this amazing business experience. Right? He was one of them. You looked at him as much a part of the food truck community as the people who were actually serving the food. And this isn't a case for Twitter, and it's the only example in the insurance industry I've ever found for Twitter. It's one of the only insurance examples in social media that I've ever found. What I'm telling you is that regardless of what your business is, when you provide people with an experience that's greater than just what you do, you become one of them. And once that happens, you don't have to sell anymore. This is the type of content that wins online. Attention and trust. Attention and trust. This is just a badass bear face. There's nothing else about that. I love stock photography, and I paid $3 for that, and I am proud. Because what it does is it gives me a chance to transition and take a breath. Okay, so let's talk technically. We have about 12 minutes left before I get the hook that she was describing, which is under her seat. So let's talk technically. So, okay, we've learned about the human side of content and what we need to do there. You do have to establish the fact that you know what you're talking about. We pretty much realize it's not a huge stretch to think that much of that starts right here. But let's talk a little bit about content. Right? Our goal is to be our customer's last search. There's no way to do that without providing both sides, both the technical side and the human side. I think it's very easy to focus on the technical side of what we do. Talk about your expertise, talk about your benefits, talk about your products, use some specific tactics, get it out there. But you're not their last search unless they also have the human factor. All right. How many have seen the movie Pulp Fiction? All right. Uma Thurman's character snorts heroin, bad idea. John Travolta's character knows if the boss's wife dies, he dies. So what does he do? Takes a big adrenaline needle, jams it into her heart. I don't care whether this medically would actually work or not, but she comes bursting back to life. So I told you that I had blogged on my own platform for almost 2 years. And then my father-in-law eventually came to me and said, hey, we'd like to do this for your website. So I said, the only way I'm doing it is if you take down that copyright 2002 sign that's at the bottom of the site and give me something that's a little new. So we put WordPress on there, and management and staff had a little dispute over how the commissions would be handled for the business that came through the platform. But and Miramax is definitely sponsoring this, and I 100% didn't take this off Google Images, I promise. So I got what actually ended up being a great case study. So in February of 2011, we redid our website to copyright 2002 was on the website, I promise you that. So 2011, it's actually amazing that he had a website in 2002, all things considered. But in 2011, we redid the website to WordPress, and we launched the site. Except because of our little dispute between labor and management, nothing happened. There were 7 pages on the website, and I said, I won't touch it. And that's what happened. And that went for a while until finally in December of 2011, I got the okay to go. So I knew that I needed to jumpstart my website. I needed to bring it back to life. It had just been sitting there. So in December of 2011, I decided to ask every client that I had on Facebook and email, every client that walked in, one question. If you could have one question answered about the insurance industry, what would it be? Just one question. Just give it to me. I collected 147 questions. Then I pared those questions down to an even 100. Some of them were duplicates, some of them were out in left field. And on January 2nd of 2012, in 2 minutes or less, I started answering those questions via YouTube video. I held my cell phone up like this. Hello, my name is Ryan Hanley. Today I'm going to answer the question, what? And then I'd answer the question. I would post that to YouTube. I'd then take that YouTube video, embed it on my website, and I did that every single day for 100 days until I had answered every single question. This is the death line. If you are not creating content, you see a flat line going across your site just like this. 72 hits a week to our contact page and our home page, because that's where our phone number and our address were. Those were people who already knew who we were and just wanted to contact us. If your website is only for people who already know who you are, you should just get rid of it. Because White Pages has the same exact information and you don't have to pay hosting fees. But once we started to create content, and so here's the videos, right? Hail damage covered by auto insurance. I'm driving. Don't do that. What is New York State short-term disability? That is some boring ass shit. This is what happened. Starting on January 2nd of 2012, Google started to repay us handsomely because we had, just as Marcus unfortunately said earlier, otherwise this would be like, your minds would be going, right? But because we were answering questions that no one else had ever answered, Google started to repay us in terms of traffic. In the 100 days from clients who directly referenced the videos, we made $5,197. We've made over 6 figures just from those 100 videos in the 3 years since we started to publish them. That's long tail. Just those 100 videos that I did 3 years ago have now yielded us over $100,000 in net revenue. That's net revenue, not gross, to our business. And for insurance people, that's revenue, not premium. So premium is like in the millions. This is the most profitable piece of content I have ever created in my entire life. I'm wearing glasses. It's 9 p.m. I'm exhausted. I'm sure that I had been like cold calling all day, just like. So here's why. For those people who aren't in insurance, you're not going to understand. There's like another joke in here, but I'm not going to tell it because you wouldn't understand. So basically, this is a really crappy policy that no one wants to write. You make maybe about $15 every time you write one of these policies. So why is this the most profitable piece of business or profitable piece of content I've ever written? Because this, thank you, was the client's problem. In June of 2012, one of the major insurance carriers in New York State decided that they were no longer going to provide New York State short-term disability to their clients. So every insurance agent who had never explained what this little crappy tiny policy is in New York State, those clients started to get non-renewal letters in the mail. And what was the very first thing that they did? Boom. What is New York State short-term disability? And my phone just started ringing like this. And if you have this, then you have workers' comp. You all know this because you're business owners and you're like, oh my God, I have to pay premiums on all this stuff, right? So you have workers' comp, you have liability, you have property, you have all these different things. So I backdoored into huge accounts because of this one piece of content that solved a very small problem. But it wouldn't have happened unless we created the content. This is kind of like my bragging thing, like, look how good we are. So I'm going to finish our time together with a very short story. So the reason that this worked as well as it did had mostly to do with my laziness. And I'm going to describe why that's true. I told you I asked my clients, Facebook, email, in person, if you could have one question answered, what would it be? So I basically just copied and pasted those things over. Okay. I'm a 21st century dude. Like, cars have been smarter than me since before I was driving. So, much to my father's chagrin, getting underneath our Ford F-150 is like, I would rather that he just knocked me out. Like, I have no interest. I know where the gas goes and how to make a move, and that's really all that I care about. So, I do know that when you make a right turn, your car is not supposed to squeal like a pig, which is what happened to me about a year and a half ago. So I didn't know what we're about to talk about at the time, but so I got to the office, and I got a guy, right? Like, we all got a guy that fixes cars. And he's across town, and I called him up, and I said, hey, Matt, my car's making this weird noise. Can I come over? And he said, sure. So drove the car over, makes the noise the whole way every time I make the right turn. And I get in the parking lot, and he says, it's probably Warrant Calipers. Now, do not debate me on whether it's calipers or not. I paid for Warrant Calipers. And when I got the car back, it didn't make noise. So I bought Warrant Calipers. I guess it's part of the brake system. And I drove back home, and I said thanks, and it was all good. But I'm a digital marketing guy, so I looked up his site, right? I went to his site. And sure enough, right on his site, Warrant Calipers. Then I did a Google search. And when I Google searched, his site did not come up. Why is that? Why did his site, when I did a Google search, why did his site not come up? He fixes Warrant Calipers. Shout it out to your answers.
He was using his term, not your term.
What was my problem? Bam, Andy. See, in the insurance audience, this goes over much better because they're not as smart as you guys are. I'm just playing. Smart about marketing. Smartest people in the world about everything else.
I see.
No, Andy's 100% correct. When I typed into Google, was right turn squealing noise problem. Because I don't have a clue what a Warrant Caliper is. I can't even describe it to you today, and I paid like $300 to have them fixed. So the reason the 100 insurance questions answered in 100 days video series is what I actually named it, which is an incredibly lame title, but tells you exactly what it was. The reason that worked is because I used the exact terms that my clients used. And when they got there, they saw technical expertise, they saw a human experience, and they decided that it was worth picking up the phone and calling me. And I'm telling you, on the business that came through these videos, I had between a 60 and 70% close ratio. It was as fast as the calls came in, I was turning them over into clients. Because they had watched 5, 6, 7, 30, all 100 videos. I have a video in this series where I was in a hoodie. I completely forgot that I had to be like a nice dress, and I had a hoodie on. But I had to do my video, because like a moron, I didn't batch, right? I did not batch. I just every day was doing this. And, which is tough. So I had to have this video with a hoodie. And people would reference the hoodie video all the time. The hoodie video. Thank you. So what I'm telling you is, by answering questions, Mark's talked about it, Rich talked about it, it's obviously a thing. 3 of the smartest people you're ever going to meet in your life told you to do this. By answering client questions, by providing a human experience, and by creating the content about your business that tells your story, you will grow your business. I absolutely promise. It has been my pleasure. Thank you very much.